Hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. I'm going to start this in a completely different way today because I got a really cool person that we're hanging out with. And I want to ask you these questions, okay? Right off the bat, this is like food for thought. Um, how would you feel if you really were excited about your day? I mean, think about that for a second, where you like couldn't wait to get to work. Here's another one. What if you spent the whole entire day doing exactly what you enjoyed the most? And it was a weekday, okay? It wasn't the weekend. And what if we could do this and wrap this up all into being wildly successful? If you could have those three things, and if you want those three things, then invest the next few minutes on listening to Lisa Marriott and Marriott Cole. Lisa Marriott Cole is the company name, and we're going to unpack that. Lisa, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, Dave. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I gotta say, this is a new one for me. I've not had anybody from Spain, so you are from Spain right now. So thank you so much for jumping on the call. And again, I'm looking forward to unpacking these. I really enjoyed reviewing your website. So
Thank
tell
you.
us, what is Lisa Marriott Cole? Let us know. Fill us in.
Sure. So I just want to say, I'm originally American, but I've lived in Spain for 11 years. I'm actually an expat, guys. It is possible.
Okay.
So I live in Spain. I live in Madrid. It's a really wonderful city, wonderful life, sunny. And yeah, so basically, I'm a business coach. So I started out with a consultancy. So the name of my company is Lisa Marriott Co.
Okay.
because the CO can stand for company, it can stand for consulting, it can stand for coaching, because that's
Awesome.
what I am. I have my own
Cool.
company and I am a coach and consultant.
And you could do whatever you want when it's yours, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You're your own boss. And you're like,
Yep.
it means what I says it means.
That's so cool. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I was really drawn to that question about feeling excited, really excited for your day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's some people listening that are going, you know what? I don't like my job. There might be some people that say, I could take it or leave it. You don't find a lot of times people that are just like jumping up and down overjoyed. Now that might be a little on the extreme side, but fill us in. Tell me about what your thought is, what your thinking is when somebody says, you know what, Lisa, I don't like my job. What kicks in for you immediately? What's like your response? How do you deal with somebody that's like, I do not like my job? Go. What do you do? What's your thought?
Well, number one, I don't normally give unsolicited advice, but if you're asking for my advice,
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
I'm a big believer in psychology. It's called external locus of control
Okay.
versus internal locus of control. So people who have an internal locus of control, they think that life happens to them. They don't believe that they're the creators of their own destiny.
Gotcha.
And as cheesy as that sounds, it's absolutely true. You have the choice to work at that job and you choose to go there every day. You have the choice to make a change or not make a change. And I would also have to tell them, I remember working at a job and I used to wake up in the morning and think, oh my God, I hate my life. And then I would remember and be like, wait a minute, I don't hate my life. I hate my job. So
Sure.
I changed it. I started a business on the side, and within 4 months, I went full time.
Wow. And that's, we love talking about that. Every chance I get, I talk on my show about that connection because some people listening are like, man, I just can't wait to start my own business. And other people are like, I'm scared to death. I wouldn't know the first thing to do that. I mean, I get those calls on a pretty regular basis, Lisa. So yours was more, let me back up. How long did you know when you were in corporate America or corporate Spain that you wanted to actually do your own thing? How long of that was that time period for you?
So it's actually really interesting. I have a very unusual story in that, like most Americans who come to Spain, I was actually an English teacher.
Okay.
And I loved teaching English. I did it for 3 years in New York and then for 7 years when I came here. So I did it for 10 years total.
Okay.
And I would still be an English teacher to this day if it weren't for the fact that we only got paid 8 months out of the year.
What?
Yeah, because the great part about being an English teacher in Spain is
Sure.
that we get 3 months off for the summer.
Okay.
We get 3 weeks off for Christmas.
Nice.
We get a week off for Easter,
Okay.
plus all of the 3-day weekends and all of those things.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's wonderful for taking trips to Barcelona, having a long weekend. Not so great for the bank account because you have to spend 8 months budgeting for those
Sure.
4 months that you don't
Sure.
work.
There you
So
go.
I actually said, I actually started studying business and marketing and all of those things,
Okay.
social media, back in 2013
Wow. Hmm.
because I said, well, I'm going to start a business on the side just to
Okay.
sort of give myself some extra income for
Sure.
the
Sure.
months when I'm not teaching.
Okay.
And then because of my studies, I got a job working as the digital marketing manager for a travel company.
Okay.
And that was in 2017. So I had already studied graphic design and branding and blogging as a business. I took MBA classes, I took finance classes, the whole shebang, and it got me a job.
Okay.
And so I was working for this travel company, and yeah, and this was the place where I said, "Oh God, I hate my life."
Oh gosh, I hate my life.
My life
Oh,
is
you
actually
could,
great.
it just comes to you naturally, right? It's just, yeah, isn't that crazy?
It was a very strong feeling at the
Yeah, I'll
time.
say it was. For those of you that can't see Lisa right now, she's just not in a happy place. So let's get back to the happy spot. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was really bad, and
Yeah.
I was not happy with my job. So and at the same time I had a coworker who needed some help with her business. I offered to help for free. She offered to pay me, and I was like, "No, it's fine." And she said, "No, no, I'll pay you." And so we started working together, and
Sure.
she was really super happy. So I said, "You know, I'm going to make this into a thing." So I started telling people, this is what I do. If you know anybody who's looking for a digital marketing strategist or social media, or to help you with business strategy. And I started doing that, and I loved it. It was so much fun. And yeah, I kind of became an entrepreneur by accident, but not really because I had been working toward it for a long time.
Wow, that's so cool. So here's a totally off the cuff question, which just came into my mind. Do you feel guilty, or did you feel guilty at all for loving what you do? Was there a spot at all that you had to wrestle with that? Like, this should be work. The rest of the world hates their job. I'm in love with it. Therefore, I'm just curious because I struggled with that for a while, and I still do at times. I'm doing something that I really love, helping a company, coaching them, whatever, speaking, at an event, whatever it is. And I'm like, man, I really like this. And then there's this little bird or something that comes to my mind that's like, well, what about the rest of the poor saps that don't love what they do, right? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know why that head pops in, and I've learned to work through that. I just was curious if that's ever been an issue for you.
I have to say, honestly, that really surprised, I don't know if you saw my face, but that really surprised me when you said that because it never even occurred to me that that was
That's
an
awesome.
option.
Don't start now, okay, Lisa? Don't start now, please. No,
But
I was curious if that was, because that is something that certain people have to fight through, because work tends to be not fun, right? And so we
yeah.
struggle with it. So I was just curious.
I mean, I think definitely, well, here's the thing. You should never, ever, ever, ever feel guilty or feel bad about being happy.
Right,
As long as you're not hurting anyone,
right,
number one, you should not feel happy. But especially because I know that the work that you do and the work that I do, we help people.
right.
So
Yep,
if you can do something that you absolutely love in service of others,
right,
that's that's a key to success right there.
yep,
And you have nothing to feel guilty about because you're helping others,
right. Yeah.
and you're helping other people find something that they love.
Don't ask me why I'm weird that way. It just pops in my brain at times, and I'm just like, what the heck? This isn't right, to
Yeah.
your point. And I love what you said, and I want to circle back to it because I don't want to gloss over what you said, but we do have a choice,
Hmm.
and I think that that's one of the great things that we do have, especially, I don't know the government and stuff in your country, but you lived here, so you want to start a business, you start a business. I mean, you have those freedoms to be able to do that. So when you have that woe is me attitude or the victim mentality, I get it, and there's times that I still struggle with that in my life. And so just being real, but the vast majority of time I realize that I have a choice to be happy. I have a choice to be this or that. And it's easy to say, hard to do, at least for me. So I'm assuming that that's one of the foundations that you work with people to help them understand that they have that choice. Are there any tools or tips or tricks, or is there anything that you've found that can help people with that mind shift, that mind, that we're changing our minds? Is there any feedback that you can share with us that worked for you?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with the victim mentality, because mindset is so important in so many areas of our life. It
Yeah,
determines your quality of life. It determines the quality of your relationships. It determines the people who are in your life. It determines your income level. It determines your career. It determines everything.
yeah,
So I think it's very important to take an active role in shaping your mindset, in identifying any self limiting beliefs that you have, any negative self talk. As you were saying earlier, you noticed that it was really difficult for you at times to be happy
yep,
because you
yep,
felt guilty. And,
yep.
and you have to sort of dig deeper. They always say you should ask why 5 times, and just start saying, okay, well, why do I feel this way? I feel this way because XYZ. Okay, well,
Sure.
why is that? So I think that really helps, is just examining your own thoughts and beliefs. Whenever you catch yourself thinking something that does not serve you,
Yep.
figure out the why, and then do the active work to change it. So identify examples of, so let's say that you say, well, it would be really difficult to become a yoga teacher because there's so many yoga teachers, right?
Sure.
And that's a self limiting belief that's stopping you from, let's say that's your dreams to become a yoga teacher or to
Yep.
open a bakery, right? There's too many bakeries, nobody's buying anything. Okay, well, if you tell yourself that, then
Right.
that's going to be the absolute reality. But if you
Yeah.
say, you know what, I'm going to look for 10 examples of people who are actually successful doing what I want to do. And instead of, if you have more of a negative mindset, you might be jealous or think, well, why not me?
Yeah.
But you should instead thank them for showing you what's possible and
Wow.
say,
Yeah.
you know, that's something that I want to model.
Sure.
Modeling is a big secret to success. Tony Robbins talks about it all the time, about look at people who are where you want to be,
Yep.
surround yourself with people like that. You have
Yep.
a sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with,
Yep.
and then thank them for showing you what's possible and work toward it. And remember that your chapter 1 is not going to look the same as someone else's chapter 20.
Sure. Yep. That's so true. So personal experience from my life, when I wrote my book, Growing on Purpose, I after it took me a while to be like, number one, no one's going to read this. Number two, my parents are going to be the only ones buying the book, all this trash that I had to work through, which, it just is. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But the funny thing was that somebody said to me that if you don't have 5 authors in your phone right now, you it is like on your speed dial, you will not write that book. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I have nobody. I literally had nobody in my whatever I was going to say Rolodex, but
Right?
you're too young to remember that.
I
You know,
remember those.
yeah, exactly. My parents use those. Go ahead, say it. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But 5 people contacts in your phone that if they aren't doing that, so I literally had to go and find 5 people that I knew or didn't know, that, or I may have vaguely knew, and I awkwardly introduced myself. I got to 5. And again, not that this is a magic number. There was something there that all of a sudden I realized that, wow, I have 5 authors in my phone right now. I can do this, there was something there. So I can totally see how that, you have the choice, you do that. There's certain things that sometimes you have to do. So I really appreciate that. You had me until you said 5 times though on the why, because I'm a high D on the disc driven person. We do a ton of disc work and I'm like results oriented. I want to get this done. I want to move on. Right. So here I say, okay, I'll ask why once, Lisa, but seriously, 5 times. Right. I mean, come
Why?
on.
Why, Dave? Why
Yeah.
only one?
This is because this is slowing me down. I got stuff I got to do. I got
Why
places to
why do you
go.
feel like you have things
Yeah,
to do,
see,
Dave?
here you go. There's number 2. Okay, now I get now you're not going to let me off the hook. But if you're listening and that's the thought that came in your mind, I know that that's the easy way of doing things is to just kind of hit the surface of each thing and move on. And you can definitely do that. I'm not here to judge one way or another. We're just showing you an opportunity to really, get to that point where are excited about your day and you can't wait to get to work and you're doing something you really love to do, to Lisa's point. So that 5 is, I mean, that's a pretty, again, I don't want to get hung up on 4, 5, 6, whatever. The concept is to dig a little deeper, right? And I like the iceberg thought where there's a little chunk above there. That's probably the first why. And then there's that big chunk down below that really starts to unpack that. So, that's how I look at it. Um, are people hesitant to that, to dig down that deep? Do you find what happens when we start to dig that deep?
So when you start to dig deep, the thing is, because I do mindset work, there's a lot of challenging of assumptions.
Okay,
So if somebody says, "Well, I can't start a business," then I say, "Well, why can't you start a business?" And
sure,
they'll give me an answer. It's too hard, or I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, well, why do you think you don't know what you're doing? Because I've never taken classes.
sure,
Okay, well, why don't you start taking classes? Well, yeah, I guess I could,
yep,
and it's just sort of a way of uncovering, like you said, it's an iceberg,
yep,
and it's a way of uncovering things. And what you said earlier, I loved what you said about downing yourself, because I think even the most successful people get imposter syndrome.
sure,
And
yep.
that's even, I was speaking to somebody today who I would have never thought had an imposter syndrome. And she was like, "Yeah, I get imposter syndrome." And I was like, you're so international and jet setting and confident. And, you work in magazines and
Right,
you're obviously very successful in your career. But even this person had imposter syndrome. So it's a really good way of uncovering what we think of ourselves that below the surface we may not realize that we think this about ourselves, or they
sure.
might be buried assumptions, or they might be things that we haven't thought about in years, or it might trigger a memory that we go, "Ah, that's why I think that."
Kind of like you're triggered before working in that travel agent situation, right? Where you, it's like, uh-oh, don't
Dave,
mention that again.
it
Okay,
was so funny. I was telling someone about that job. I want to say 2 months after I stopped working there, and I was
sure.
like, "Oh my gosh, it's only been 2 months. It
Yeah.
felt like so long."
Yep, exactly. No, I get
So
it. I
yeah,
mean, and I've been so blessed to be able to work for myself for the vast majority of my career. So if I don't like something, I was just thinking about that today. I listened to a podcast on how to grow your speaking part of your business. And since I did a lot more speaking prior to 2020 because of the shutdown and stuff, but I'm looking at 21, 22, 23, and I'm thinking, do I want to go that route? What do I want to do? I mean, what a privilege it is for us to be able to have those choices. And so I just keep encouraging people that, to your point, Lisa, that, what, give give yourself the ability to have some choices. I mean, just do the what ifs. you know I just was helping a guy out this morning and I said, what, just consider for a minute, if you had a rich uncle, Leonard, and he died and left you more money than you could ever imagine in your whole life, what would you then do in your day-to-day activity? What would your legacy be? What would your purpose be? And having fun to be able to unpack that, as opposed to got to go to work, got to go hit the grind, no, nose to the grindstone, whatever the words are in your world. So I appreciate when you say I have a choice. Is that's got to be foreign to people that are working with you, or is everyone pretty much already past the fact that yes, I have a choice? Do you run into people that are still struggling with that I have a choice thing?
Well, it's really interesting. It's so funny that you say that because the very first exercise that I do with my clients, I call it the life by design visualization.
Okay.
And I tell them the exact same thing. I say, I want you to imagine your ideal day where money is not an object, time is not an object. You have won the lottery and you can do whatever you want. And I want you to design your
Gosh,
ideal day.
I can't stop smiling already. It's already awesome, right? I mean, oh my gosh, it's done. I'm already done. I already know it. So that's so cool. So sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So basically what you do is you describe your ideal day from
Yep.
start to finish, including where you live, who you're with,
Yep.
right?
Okay.
And you want to include as many joy generating activities as possible. So for some people, their dream is to be a stay at home parent. For some people, even if they don't have to work, they still like to work. So I have them do that. And then it's really interesting because some people, they get really into it and, um, and they get really excited by it and they go,
Sure.
wow, this is so cool. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
fun to imagine what's possible. And then there's other people that, because I think a lot of times fear is the default for people, whether
Sure.
it's fear of failure
Yep.
or even fear of success,
Yep.
surprisingly.
Yep.
They're so scared to even hope because they've
Wow.
been so beat down by life, because they've been told, it's not possible because of the things that they've seen and heard and experienced. So I think that's always a really good place to start, is just because everything is created in your mind before it's created in your world.
Sure.
So
Sure.
you have to sort of know what you would like to go toward before you can start going toward it.
Yeah.
And you have to believe that it's possible, because when you start believing and getting excited, maybe it'll take, a year, maybe it'll
Yep.
take 5 years,
Yep.
but as long as you sort of have that belief in your mind,
Sure.
it's really, I don't know, it kind of sets you free in a way
Totally.
to
Yep.
just go for it, because people say life is too short, but I say life is too long to do something that you hate, and
Right.
that and that
Yep.
and that kills your soul and that wears you down.
Yep.
Why would you do that when there's another way?
Sure. Wow, that's so cool. I mean, I remember asking a guy in one of my classes, what motivates you? And he said, without missing a beat, my mortgage. And it was
Oh,
just like,
oh no,
wow. I mean, I got what he meant. I hope I got what he meant, but it was so like, it kind of
sad.
really, right? It sapped the energy out of me. And it was just like, oh man, that just doesn't even sit right with me, And I mean, I get you got a mortgage, I get you got a family or whatever it is that you have. Totally get it. The reality is I'm hoping that that's really not your motivator. But there are people, they wake up and they're in that routine, and they work 50 weeks a year and they live for their 2 weeks of vacation. And even during the 2 weeks of the vacation, they complain that it's too expensive, or, why, whatever it is. Right. So I just love to surround myself with people that feel like they have a choice. And
Yes.
it's so freeing is the word you use. I love that. It's so energetic to just be with those people. So um, you talked about human design. So I want to kind of pivot into that a little bit, because I want to learn more about that. Fill us in on when you put those two words together. What exactly does that mean to you?
So human design is really interesting because it has actually been around for a few decades now,
Okay.
but it's gotten really popular and it's been gaining in popularity in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
And just a little brief overview of where it comes from and how you use it is basically, it's a combination of the chakra energy system, astrology, because it takes into account the time and place of your birth, It also has to do with the Kabbalah, so the Jewish mysticism, as well as the Chinese I Ching hexagram system, which has to do with divination.
Okay.
And it takes all of these elements and combines to tell you sort of, essentially you get a chart, like a regular chart, and it shows you there's different colors and numbers, and it tells you, I like to say that it's a self-knowledge tool, because when you get a reading, they tell you things about yourself and you just say, wow, how did they know that about me? Like
Sure.
things about your personality, things about your tendencies, things that you realize about yourself and things that you maybe didn't realize about yourself. But when they
Yep.
tell that, you go, oh wow, that's really true. And not only that, it gives you guidance as far as how to live your life the best way possible.
Sure.
And I always say that when you know yourself, you have permission to lean into yourself. So something that works for one person does not work for another person. And instead of trying to sort of fight and be something that you're not, you really can just embrace the best version of yourself and work with the way that you were quote unquote designed.
Sure. Gotcha. Well, and I think the self-awareness piece is so important. Again, we do a lot of work with DISC and a lot of work with EQ, the emotional quotient, to try and really help people better understand themselves. I can't imagine knowing, if you don't know about yourself, it's really hard to know about others. It's really hard to understand, you know, how to cope along the way in your journey. So I mean, for me personally, and for people that I talk with, I try really hard to just, help them with their self-awareness. And nowhere better, I don't know how it is in Spain, but nowhere better is self-awareness shown than on the freeway, because there's people that, man, that 20 feet of car as they're
Uh-huh.
merging in, there's no way in the world, Lisa, that you are getting in front of me, because that 20 feet is making the difference in my whole world. Right. I mean, that's how they drive and that's how they are. And some people have no clue, right? They're just oblivious to that. And I get it. I get it. I'm not here to say it's right or wrong. I just think that the more we can be aware of other people, the easier it's going to be. And this, whether it's self-knowledge, self-awareness. So, there's different tools in the world to create that first step. And I'm assuming once you're at that spot in your work and in your practice, you are able then to take people into different realms, but it really starts with that self-awareness. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think also too, one of the beautiful things about human design is that once you're aware of how someone is, it's much easier to get along with them
Right. Yeah.
because you understand them.
Right.
So I love doing chart readings for people. I'll do a chart reading for you for free if you'd like, so you can get a taste of it because it's super fun, and then you can tell everyone how fun it is.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I think you'll absolutely love it. I mean, for me personally, when I did a chart reading, it
Yeah.
changed my life.
Sure.
It changed how I did things in my business, and I found it. They talk a lot about not encountering resistance, and it
Hmm.
really is that if you are trying to like force things, you're going to encounter a lot of resistance. But if you are just sort of like, okay, I understand my strengths, I understand my tendencies, I understand that this is how I experience the world, I understand that this is the role that I was born to play in this world,
Right.
I'm going to embrace that and just do it.
Yeah. Isn't it hard for, I don't know, for what your experience has been, Lisa, but the experience that I have is when someone looks at, like, a disc assessment can be like 40, 50, 60 pages, right? And you've answered some questions, and they've kind of shaken, and then all of a sudden out comes this reading of this stuff, and it's just like, holy cow, right? Some people are really like, um they're resistant to it. That's the word I was looking for, right? They're really resistant. Like, that's not me. I mean, and I don't mind on a page to cross out a couple things. I'm not going to sit here and debate you with it. I just say, hey, if this doesn't like you, just cross it out.
Yeah.
And I don't mind a couple things being crossed out, but man, when a whole page is crossed out, it's like, okay, we got some issues here. There's something else going on here, right? Do you
Yeah.
encounter that kind of resistance in this type of situation, or what's the typical response when somebody tends to start along this journey?
It's actually the opposite.
Okay,
I've
awesome.
I've never had a reading where somebody's like, "That's not true at all." It's always, and this is what I'm
Good.
telling you. Like, how do they know?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
always, wow, that's so true.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't realize that about myself. Wow, yeah, I'm going to use that.
That's awesome.
It's always a positive tool.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think a lot of it probably too is they're, in a mindset, like you said before, where they're ready, to do this. It's not like you're, I think, and this is, no offense to anybody, this is just how my simple mind works. I think of the county fair, and I think of, that big computer, and you punch in things and outcomes like whatever you're going to do when you grow up or whatever, right? They're just trying to, I don't know what the legitimacy of it is, so I can see where there's like this instant, like, yeah, whatever stuff, right? I mean, that's the natural tendency I think that a lot of people have. So again, from educate me on, this piece, the human design, because that can be so widely interpreted. So you
Mhm.
kind of take these different chunks, and then you start with this is you. What do you do with that then once you have this is you, and we've agreed on that? How does that tie into business? I guess I'd like to understand that transition there for the listeners and for me, because I don't know the answer.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll just give you a quick little summary
Sure.
of one of the parts of the chart, which
Okay.
is your energy type. And the energy type is very important.
Okay.
There's five energy types. One of them, I'll use the analogy of building a pyramid. Okay.
Okay.
So there's one energy type that says they get the good, they get all the good ideas, and they say, I think we should build a pyramid, right? It takes more than one person to build a pyramid. So it's their job to say to other people, who wants to build a pyramid with me? Okay. And then there's two other types that have the energy, and this is the majority of the population. So this is why um, the other types can be misunderstood, because 70% of the population are the
Okay.
types that have the energy to carry out the projects,
Okay.
right? So these are the people who are actually, creating the mud bricks, building the pyramid, right?
Yep. Gotcha.
Then there's the fourth type, which is these are the guides and the mentors, and they're 20% of the population. And they spend their time resting because they don't
Okay.
have as much energy as the other type,
Okay.
studying and learning so they
Mm,
can be the best guides and mentors,
sure.
and then guiding and mentoring,
Yep.
right? And then there's the final type, which are very rare. They're 1% of the population, and they just sort of absorb everything
Okay.
and say, then they survey everything and they say, yes, you're doing a good job, or no, you're not doing a good job. So the fourth energy type, which is my energy type, uh, I am very, and this has to do with my chart, I'm very perceptive about things.
Okay.
And it can be a little bit disconcerting to people, because if I say, well, yeah, this, and this, and they'll be like, I thought I was hiding that really
Yeah.
well.
Right. Yep.
And I'm like, well, no, it's actually really obvious. But obviously, people don't want to know that.
Sure.
So
Sure.
for me personally, I only say 5% of the things that I observe.
Okay.
And in human design, you have a strategy. And your
Okay.
strategy, for example, my strategy is I have to wait for the invitation. So I have to wait for someone
Ah,
to recognize that I'm knowledgeable,
sure.
that I can help them, whatever they want to do.
Sure.
They ask me, they say, Lisa, can you help me with this? And I say, absolutely.
Yep.
Let me tell you everything that I see. And they go, oh, that's really, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So yeah, so in business, I'm a coach.
Okay.
And it's really funny. My coach is also the same energy type,
Okay. Good. Good.
right? But the people that work for me, I want them to not be my energy type, because my
Sure.
energy type doesn't have a lot of energy.
Yep.
I need to work with people who are of the second and third type, because they have the energy to see things through. And I also want people on my team who are the creative type that get all the
Yep.
good ideas.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Wow. So yeah, that's similar to, so when you think about, for me, I think about the four different personality styles in DISC. The worst thing in the world when people are talking about building a team, I'm a high D driven person, like this. I have all these ideas, but I really struggle immensely to try and implement those, right? So there's somebody that does the implementation, to your point, the bricks, the mortar, all that. So if we had 10 people in my company and we had 10 Daves on the team and the personality was the same, we'd have whiteboards full of ideas, Lisa. Every idea under the sun would be there. None of them would get done.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where it's so important to have the I'm going to say the yin and the yang, right? The opposites do attract. You have to have these different pieces on your team. That's where I think, in my mind, human design, disc, whatever tools you're using, that understanding of your team is so essential and crucial in the success of it, because I'm now going to understand, if you and I are different and I'm the doer and you're the idea person, and it's real easy for me to go and say, man, I wish you'd do something around here. I'm doing all the work, right? And you're thinking, man, I wish that dude would come up with some ideas, right? I'm tired of being the idea person, right? But that
Yeah.
goes on in business all the time. And so I really can appreciate that. So if you're listening and you have all the same people on your team, holy cow, you know, find some other energy, to Lisa's
Yeah.
point, because that's a lot of times why things don't get done, because there's no doers on the team, or a team struggles without a vision because there's not a visionary in that group. So that's awesome. I appreciate you opening that up. So you know what? And if we don't want it, we can hit the stop record button. Katie, the producer, she won't have to listen to this. Tell me one thing that you're perceiving about me that I wouldn't know that you're perceiving. I'd love to hear what you got.
I mean, there's a lot of things. So, I mean, I can look at your entire, I mean, I can look at you,
Okay.
I can look at your hairstyle, I can look at your clothing. That
Uh-huh.
tells me something. I can look at your walls. I look at the colors on the walls, the
Okay.
lights. I see the
Yep.
elliptical at the very beginning. I noticed that you had an elliptical in the background. And I was like, oh yeah, I would have an elliptical in my house too.
Yep.
So I know that fitness is important to you. You have two machines there.
Yep.
You have some diplomas on the wall. Obviously, your book. You're very proud of your books. You have
Yep.
that on the wall in the background. Um, yeah.
That's funny. Isn't it uncomfortable? I gotta say, it's so uncomfortable when people
Is
start,
it?
like, okay,
Sorry, you
examine,
asked.
tell me. I know I did. I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm just having to deal with the uncomfortableness. I'm not saying to stop. I'm just saying that it's really awkward sometimes for people. And this is why a lot of business owners don't go down this road, because it
Mm,
is awkward. Well, the reality is it may be awkward, but it's just as awkward filing for bankruptcy because you didn't do something right, or telling a customer that you didn't do it the right way because you don't have the right team. Whatever it is, I mean, uncomfortable, awkward stuff happens.
yeah.
So you know what, the I choose to try and come into something as well prepared as I possibly can. So but yet understanding that a lot of things are, you know off the cuff. And the more I know about the human design, the more I know about the people that I'm communicating with, by
Yeah.
far is a win-win for everybody. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
As we start to come in for a landing, you have a blog post called "How I Had My $10,000 Day." So I am like, okay, you piqued my interest. So, and rather than click on it and read it because I'm a high D, right? I just, I'm like, I'm going to ask her rather than read it. So, share with us, if you can, what that actually means for you.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, within a space of 24 hours, I had two inbound sales calls, and the result was $10,000 worth of revenue
Okay.
from the contracts. And the way that it started was essentially, so it was back in the summer. I was doing events on Eventbrite.
Okay.
So I was advertising for it on Instagram, and I was going on there very frequently and just talking about branding and social media and basically the things that I do. And, one of the things you do if you are coaching, you can be high touch or you can be low touch. So at the time I was doing high touch, which means, you have direct contact with people, you send them messages, you send them emails, you call them, right? So
Hmm.
I was personally inviting
Sure.
everyone that I knew to the event.
Sure.
So basically there were just a lot of visibility happening, and just basically making people aware of what you do, you know.
Yep.
So people knew that I was a business coach, and they knew that I was having an event, and they knew that that's what I did.
Hmm.
So one of the people that I had reached out to wrote me back, and they said, "Hey, do you have time for a phone call later? I want to talk about the event." And I said, "Sure."
Wow.
So yeah, so we set up a time. She called me, and we just started talking and
Sure.
catching up. I hadn't spoken to her for a while, and yeah, she was actually sort. Well, I won't give too much information away. There was someone who
Front
had
row. Katie Steiker to the right. You're good.
protect names. Um, discretion is an undervalued trait in this world, I think.
No worries. It's all good.
But yeah, but basically we hadn't spoken in a while, so we
Yeah,
caught up about our lives, and I had my business, and this person had theirs, and
sure.
essentially, yeah, then after catching up and talking, then we started talking about business, and they started telling me, um, the things that they needed help with, and I was like, yeah, well, maybe you should do this and this and this and this, and then eventually it turned into, wow, I would love I would love to hire you to help me. I've been thinking about hiring somebody. I see that you do this.
Sure.
It sounds like you really know what you're talking about. And I said, yeah, that would be great. And then I quoted her the price, and she was like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. Let's do it. And it was really just, I don't like to think of it as having a sales conversation. I'm
Sure.
sorry. I don't like to think of it as having a sales call,
Yep.
because that's very transactional, and
Yep.
sort of and it's perfectly fine. A lot of people do it. There's, sales scripts and all those things. It's just that for me
Right.
personally, that's not my style of doing things. Um, So I just prefer to have conversations with people, and then, as they always say, people don't like to be sold to; they like to buy. So
Yep.
you create the conditions, and again, this goes back to
Excuse me.
my human design type, is that
Yep.
people see, oh, Lisa's an expert in this. I'm going to go to her for help. So that changes what I do for my marketing. So we had a conversation. By the end of it, I had a $6,000 contract. Then the next
Sweet.
Yeah, and then the next day, less than 24 hours later, somebody else said, "Hey, can we have a call?" And I said, "Sure." And
Nice.
I was like, "What's happening here?"
Yeah. What did I do here?
Yeah, this,
Yeah.
this is great.
Yep.
So we caught up. I found out what was going on in her life, and she was saying, "Yeah, I really want to start a business, and I know that, and I had been doing this for as long as she and I had known each other. So I'd been doing this for a few years." And so she knew that I had kind of been working on this for a while. And so she said, "Yeah, do you have any, what programs do you have?" And so I told her about the programs, and she signed up
Sure.
for one of my programs. And that was another $4,000 contract.
Wow. Cool. And that
Yeah,
was in 24 hours. So,
24 hours.
and there was something on your website that I wanted to, it ties into this because I really enjoyed this. It said, and I'm going to read it because you worded it so well. And you said you're an English major, which if I would have known that ahead of time, Lisa, I would have prepared way more because I want to make sure that, I say this right. So but I'm reading what you wrote. So if there's a problem, it's on you, not on me, right?
I take
So
full responsibility.
cool. Good, good, good. It says, I need to know how much value to give away for free because I'm burned out from pumping out a ton of content that doesn't yield results. I mean, entrepreneurs, uh, business owners, sales professionals, we're all struggling with how much do I give away for free? I mean, I've spoken in the past for free, and I've actually flown to places to speak for free. And I'm like, this was really great, but what the heck, right? I mean, this is like, really,
Yeah.
so I'm starting to learn how to hone this in. But when you had that on your website, what do you say to somebody? What is your, advice in that situation if they came to you and asked you about, I don't understand, I feel like I'm giving away too much, or I'm not. How do you balance that for your world?
Uh, I'm actually talking about this tomorrow in my Facebook group.
All right. Awesome.
There's two parts to it. So
Okay.
the first part is strategically, it does make sense to sometimes give away things for free. So,
Okay.
for example, if you are just starting and if you have had zero client experience, it
Yep.
makes sense to take on beta
Sure.
clients for
Okay.
free or at a reduced rate to get
Yep.
experience in exchange for testimonials. And you don't do it forever, but you do it for a little while because they're helping you as much as you're helping them.
Sure. Okay.
Same thing is if there's a really great opportunity, for example, if somebody wants to interview me for Forbes, but I have to, you know, do something in exchange or pay for something,
Sure. Yep.
that is strategically a good move because being in
Gotcha.
Forbes
Sure.
is
Yep.
very good for credibility and things like that, right? So, but that's kind of the exception to the rule.
Yep.
Because here's the thing, I always say, oh well, no, I'll mention this in a moment. Basically, when you're creating content and when
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking about what to give away for free and what not to give away, content, especially for social media, but really you can do this for anything. The type of content that creates demand talks about the what and the why, which is your free content. And
Okay.
then your paid content is the how.
Ah.
Because
Huh.
let's say that you talk about, 5 mistakes that you're making in business. That's the what, right? This, and this.
Okay.
And then if you say you want to avoid these because blah, 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 that's the why.
Wow.
Okay. Well, what should I do instead? Well, I have this program that can teach you how to, be successful. Because I always
That's
say, why?
brilliant.
Yeah, because the expression that I like to use is why buy the how when you can get the milk for free?
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, and I'm like, and part of it is here it is. I'm going to lay this out here. Okay. I had somebody on the podcast not too long ago, and we were talking about like self-worth and things that were like way over my head, but I got vulnerable, jumped in, and I realized that like we were talking about some people struggle charging because they don't, like I said on my book, who's going to buy my book, right? There's saying that kind of half jokingly, but then there's also saying that who's going to buy my book to the point where I don't do it, right?
Right.
So there's this crippling, thought that comes into my mind. Part of why and I'm just now realizing this, or verbalizing it for the first time, is that I sometimes give stuff away because I feel like I don't want to charge for it. Sometimes I just like giving stuff away. It's my business. I can do whatever I want, right? But then
Yeah.
there's times that I'm like, I do it for not the right reason. And so I'm just learning that. So I love the what and the why for free, but charge for the how. That's really helpful. So thank you for sharing that. And if you're listening, and that if you're doing that, call me because I'm doing the same thing. And I'll help you, right? I'll help you get through that. But it's like, yeah, people call me on a regular basis and say, how can I fix this? And I tell them, and I don't charge them for it. And I mean, I had one guy that has come back year after year, and I've yet to charge him. And I'm coaching the guy thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of
Yeah.
free coaching. And I'm trying to like really understand in myself why I'm doing that. And
Mhm.
so part of it is, I don't know. Part of it is I don't think I have the value. And so that's what I'm struggling with on part of my life. But
Yeah.
the other part is like sometimes I'm just like, whatever, I don't mind, right? This is fun. It's kind of like helping somebody out for free. So thank you for unpacking those. I wrote that down. I circled it. I got a whole page of notes right here.
Put it on the wall.
You're killing it, right? You're
When they
killing
start
it.
to ask how, you say, "Well,
Yes.
this is usually things that I cover with my clients, so I'd love to talk
Yes.
to you more about what that would look like."
Wow, that's so awesome. Oh, that's so now you got me. That's it. So full, taxi cab confessions. This is my problem right
Yeah. Well,
there,
thank you for sharing.
So
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, no, but
yeah,
it's like you said, it has to do with intention because we all love to be generous. We all love to give things away. And
yep,
I do things for free as well. But I do it from a place of love and of generosity and of wanting to help people
sure.
rather than from a place of fear. And I
Yeah.
don't think I'm worth charging this much, you know?
Yep. Great point. Yep. That's really good. Very well said. Thank you for sharing that. So two questions and then I'm going to let you go. Let's do the Lisa Mariette tip of the week. What is your tip of the week for anybody listening? It can be anything.
Let's see. I think tip of the week is something that has helped me immensely
Perfect.
is focus on one thing at a time because we have all been guilty of having shiny object syndrome and going,
Oh yeah.
well, I need to do this and I need to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes. Like, no, pick one product or service to focus on, figure out the best way to do it, and then scale
Yep.
it. Pick
Wow.
one task to focus on because if you're multitasking, you're not doing one thing well, you're doing two things badly.
Yep. Wow, that's so true.
And
Okay. So shiny object syndrome, when's the last time it happened to you? Because do you struggle with that?
yes, I mean, it takes discipline. I think being an entrepreneur, one of the quote unquote soft skills is having
Yep.
discipline because you have to, yes, you make your own schedule, but that means you could sleep until noon or
Sure.
sit until
Yep.
3 o'clock in the morning, right? You have to
Yep.
choose to not do that.
Yep.
Uh, Same thing with doing things. I heard a piece of advice the other day, and it was like, if it only takes 2 minutes, do it in the moment. So I was like, well, let me try that, and I did it. I'm like, no, because then it takes 5 minutes, and then
Yeah.
you do another thing, and all of a sudden you've lost an hour. And I said, it's better just to do blocking and batching. You
Yep.
say, I'm gonna sit down and work on this for an hour, set my
Yep.
timer, and then have a cup of tea afterwards.
That's awesome. Wow. So how many average screens do you have open at the bottom of your computer at one time?
Oh, I do love my tabs.
There you go. See? All right. Now
So
it comes out.
But you know what I do? I actually, on Airtable, I have a base called Shiny Objects. And whenever
Okay.
I start to get distracted, I'm like, nope, save it for later, save it for
There you
later,
go.
save it for later.
Wow.
And then I can always go back to it and finish the task at hand because you just will not make progress. But if you
Nope.
do the opposite, if you focus on one thing and you say, I'm going to focus on this thing, you make so much progress.
Wow, that's awesome. Cool. Second question, more fun than that question is what's something that most people don't know about you that you feel comfortable sharing?
I think the thing that surprises people when they first meet me, I mean, people who know me know this about me, but when
Yeah,
people first meet me, the fact that I used to be an opera singer,
that's right. Your website says that. So, yep.
they
Okay.
go, "What?"
So do you have to practice or can you jump right into a sample for us?
Oh, yeah, I can jump. I mean, the neighbors might not be super happy, but I'll make it short.
Yeah, it is late there. So,
Yeah, it's almost 1 a.m., but I'll make it short. It's fine. We're all up anyway.
oh my gosh. Go
You
for
want
it.
to sing for you?
Yes, go
Okay.
for it.
Okay, so. Quando soletta per la via, la gente sosta e mira.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what you said, but I'll buy it, whatever it was.
I said, everybody
Wow,
checks
that
me out on the street.
yeah, there you go. There you go. That is so cool. Wow. This time flew by. I didn't even get to all my questions, so gonna have to get you back. What's the best way if somebody's listening and you struck a chord with them, whether it was on a human design, they want to learn more about making $10,000 a day, or they really are wanting to be excited about their day? What's the best way, Lisa, for people to reach out to you?
So, the main way that people can reach me is on my Facebook group,
Okay.
which is Spiritual Women in Business.
Okay.
So if you just search spiritual women in business, you can find me there. That's where I'm every single day. I post all of
Okay.
my valuable quality content about the what and the why.
Yes.
And then it's really fun. Everybody's really nice, and we have a lot of fun.
Sure.
And then if people are interested in directly working together, I do human design readings.
Okay.
So you can do that directly on my website, lisamarriott.com. And or if you want to work together with coaching, we can do it that way as
Mhm.
well. And I work with men and women, but
Okay.
I usually more work mostly with women. So yeah.
Gotcha.
But
Perfect.
yeah, so if you want a holistic business, oh, and then on my website I have a holistic business audit. So you can go through and check out, it's like a 27-page document
Oh my
going
gosh.
through, yeah, so going through like your business foundations, your spirituality foundations, your wellness foundations, SEO, social media.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And
Yeah. So if you,
there's no cost for that?
no, it's free. You go to my website. You just, I
Oh
mean,
my
you
gosh.
put in your email and then it's, yeah, it's in the free resources section.
Excellent. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Well, if you invested the last hour and you didn't learn anything, then you know what? That's on you because we unpacked a ton. And it's so awesome to find the best of the best in the world. This time we ended up in Spain. Thank you so much for staying up late to hang out with us. Thank you for sharing with us a little bit of your voice. Thank you for a glimpse into your company. And again, if you're listening and you are interested in finding out how to do more of what you love, I think that we have a great opportunity here with Lisa to be able to have her at least point you in the right direction. Give yourself a choice and just, you know what, jump outside your comfort zone and just jump on her website. There is a ton there. I was there and I had a ball. So Lisa, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And hopefully we'll be able to, I don't know if you're open up yet in the world, but we're still not doing a lot of traveling. So hopefully soon we'll be able to get out. It'd be great to share a stage with you somewhere in the world. And until then, keep going with what you're doing. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much, Dave. It was really nice being.
Awesome.